This is Tommy Ivy, video number 63. The title is Pharisees and the Vow That Hid Greed. They knew the scriptures, they looked holy, their history, trauma, and persecution. Yet while they quoted God's laws, their parents went hungry. They called it Corban. Jesus called it hypocrisy. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees! 7 times. A warning. Why would the Son of God speak like this? 4 points to this video. Number 1, who were the Pharisees? Number 2, why did the Pharisees reject Jesus? Number 3, lessons for today. And number 4, story, Corban. Number 1, who were the Pharisees? The Pharisees began around 150 BC in the period between the Old and New Testaments. They are remembered for their strictness and harsh reputation, but their story begins long before Jesus' time. Their roots trace back to the Babylonian exile around 605 BC when Nebuchadnezzar first captured the Israelites, and then a few years later went on to destroy Jerusalem and the temple. The Israelites were being punished by God. This was the trauma. God's covenant was being broken for years by the Israelites. In Deuteronomy 28:15 summary, if you do not observe the commandments, curses. Why was God so mad? Well, they were committing idolatry with Baal. They had social injustice, the poor worked for little money, and they rejected the prophets. God warned Israel specifically in Deuteronomy 28:36. The Lord shall bring thee into a nation, Babylon, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, and there shall thy serve other gods, wood and stone. So they are captive in Babylon. The Pharisee movement was shaped by exile and the desire to never endure God's severe punishment and judgment again. They wanted to teach the Jews the Torah. Now, closer to the time of the first Pharisees, an event took place that accelerated their beginning. In 167 BC, the temple in Jerusalem was desecrated by a Greek king, Antiochus IV Epiphanes. He sacrificed a pig in the temple. This is the persecution. This caused a 6-year revolt called the Maccabean Revolt. A Greek representative was killed, and the Maccabean soldiers conducted guerrilla warfare in the mountains. The Pharisee movement started a few years later, around 150 BC. Not as soldiers, but as teachers. In the time of Jesus, Josephus, who claimed to be a Pharisee, said they numbered around 6,000. Were the Pharisees Levites? No, they were businessmen, merchants, and scribes. The objective was to live a law-abiding life and to teach the population in synagogues about the Torah. This is where the laws are housed, the first 5 books of the Old Testament. They knew the Bible. They knew Jesus would be born in Bethlehem. They knew he would perform miracles. In Isaiah 35:5 and 6, then the eyes of the blind shall be opened, and the ears of the deaf shall be unstopped. Then shall the lame man leap as a hart, and the tongue of the dumb sing. The common Jews liked the Pharisees. They were dependable, dedicated, and completely committed to the scriptures. There was nothing wrong with this. So where did they go wrong? Jesus saw 2 problems. Number 1, the Pharisees added to God's laws with additional laws. In Mark 7:9, they reject the commandments of God that ye may keep your own traditions. 2 verses later, Mark 7:11, but ye say, if a man shall say to his mother or father, it is Corban. Now this was a vow by a person to commit money or property to God. It could not be used for any other purpose. To God, they said, I'll give it later to you. To the parents, I would love to help, but the money is dedicated and committed to God. This was a trick, a hoax, a way to keep the money. This goes against Scripture. In Exodus 20:12, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. The second problem Jesus saw was that the Pharisees' religion was outward rather than inward. They measured righteousness, that's salvation, by behavior, not by faith in Jesus. They had not surrendered to God in their heart. In Ezekiel 36:26, a new heart also will I give you, and a new spirit will I put within you. And I will take away the stony heart out of your flesh, and I will give you a heart of flesh. Look how Jesus dismantled the Pharisees with a single event. In Luke 7, a woman known as a sinner enters a Pharisee's house. To them, she was lost. She was not obedient to the law. Jesus is looking at the heart. In Luke 7:50, and he said to the woman, thy faith hath saved thee. Go in peace. And this is the same woman that washed Jesus' feet with her tears earlier on. We know she believed because Jesus said she has faith. Summary: the Pharisees taught righteousness through obedience of the laws. Jesus declared righteousness through faith in Jesus. Number 2, why did the Pharisees reject Jesus? Number 1, Jesus acted as God. He forgave sins. Mark 2:5. He said unto the sick of the palsy, Son, thy sins be forgiven thee. This was blasphemy. Only God can forgive sins. Number 2, Jesus acted like he had authority. The Pharisees liked having authority. Matthew 7:29. For he taught them as some having authority, not as the scribes. If Jesus is the final authority, then they are not. Number 3, Jesus claimed to be God. In John 8:58, Jesus said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, before Abraham was, I am. Number 4, Jesus told them, Me or hell. John 5:40, And ye will not come to me, that ye might have life. So by the end of Jesus' ministry, the Pharisees were no longer merely critics. They became determined to eliminate him. Jesus had exposed their traditions, stripped them of moral authority, and drawn people away from them and toward him. What remained was fear. Fear of losing power, influence, and control. Before we condemn the Pharisees as a whole, it is important to recognize that not all Pharisees rejected Jesus. Nicodemus sought out Jesus and admitted he was sent from God. After Jesus was crucified, and while the disciples were nowhere in sight, Nicodemus brought 100 pounds of ointment to wrap Jesus. Also, Joseph of Arimathea begged Pilate for the body of Jesus and laid him in his own tomb. And in Acts 15:5, But there rose up certain of the sect of the Pharisees which believed. And then Paul, author of many of the New Testament books, was a Pharisee. Number 3, lessons for today. Number 1, the Pharisees knew Jesus was Lord. Look at the miracles. He brought Lazarus back to life after being dead for 4 days. So what was their response? Submit? No. John 12:10. But the chief priests consulted that they might put Lazarus to death. In John 11:45, it said that he consulted with the Pharisees. Lesson: this world was more important than eternity for them and for many of us. Lesson number 2. The Pharisees, after all their influence and authority, found it hard to change and say, we were wrong. Well, that's pride. We have the same problem. What will people think? Who cares? They treat it more important than eternity in heaven or hell. Some people do. Lesson 3. Hillel and Shammai. The easiest way seems to always win by default. In the days of Jesus, the Pharisees were not all the same. There were 2 major schools dominated the Jewish teaching: the house of Hillel and the house of Shammai. Shammai was strict and they were conservative. He, the rabbi, he was the leader, believed the law of God should be guarded carefully, applied precisely, and taken seriously. With divorce, man could divorce his wife only if she showed immorality with another man. Hillel, on the other hand, was more flexible, more accommodating. His interactions were broader, easier to live with, and more appealing to the average person. Man could divorce for any reason. My meal was burned? That girl over there is a little prettier? Over time, the house of Hillel became dominant, while Shammai faded into the background. Lessons for today: the easier path always wins by default. Not because it's more faithful, not because it's more true, but because it demands less effort, less discipline. The stricter path requires work, restraint, saying no to yourself. And human nature does not like that. Human nature is comfortable on the broad road. The narrow road, it takes submission to God rather than convenience. Paul warned Timothy in 2 Timothy 4, verses 3 and 4. For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lust shall they reap to themselves teachers, having itchy ears, and they shall turn away their ears from the truth, and shall be turned to fables. Truth is rarely the path of least resistance. Faithfulness usually costs something. That is what Jesus said in Matthew 16:24. If any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. Number 4, story, Corban. The famine had come slowly, like a rising tide. At first, there was still flour in the bag. Then only whispers of powder. Then nothing. The parents searched their home. They opened every cupboard, shook every jar. No grain, no bread, no hope. They knocked on the doors asking their neighbors, "Do you have anything, just a little?" But no one had enough to share. Hunger followed them like a shadow. Their strength began to fade. At last they came to their son, the son they had raised, fed, clothed, and sheltered when he was small. Their voices trembled. Please, help us. We have nothing left. The son looked at them, not with anger, but with cold calmness, even a kind smile. I wish I could help, he said, but everything I have has been promised to God. It is Corban, a sacred offering. What I would have given you, I have already given to the synagogue. And so they left empty-handed. He watched them go. Days passed. Their footsteps slowed. Their bodies weakened. And quietly they died. He buried them, and then he returned to his home, where the cupboards were full, the purse heavy. You see, he had promised everything to God, but had given nothing away at all, and maybe would never. The vow of Corban had become an excuse, a loophole, a shield to protect his wealth from the very ones God had commanded him to honor. He valued the new made-up laws more than scriptures, fake rules more than compassion, this world more than the next. All right, I've got a song. It's called He Knows My Name. Isn't that the truth? Counts the stars, one and all. He knows how much sand is on the shore. He sees every sparrow that falls. He made the mountains and the sea. He's in control of everything, of all creatures great and small. And he knows my name, every step that I take, every move that I make, every tear that I cry. And he knows my name when I'm overwhelmed by the pain, can't see the light of day. I know I'll be just fine, 'cause he knows my name. I don't know what tomorrow will bring. I can't tell you what's in store. I don't know a lot of things. I don't have all the answers to the questions of my life, but I know in whom I have believed, and he knows my name, every step that I take, every move that I make, every tear that I cry. And he knows my name when I'm overwhelmed by the pain, I can't see the light of day. I know I'll be just fine, 'cause he knows my name. He knew who I was when he carried the cross. He knew that I would fail him, but he took the loss. And he knows my name, every step that I take, every move that I make, every tear that I cry. And he knows my name when I'm overwhelmed by the pain, I can't see the light of day. I know I'll be just fine, 'cause he knows my name. 'Cause he knows my name. Okay, this is Tommy Ivy, video number 63. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.